I thought I'd begin with some soothing sounds of G major. Hey, everybody, our 25th Guitar Q&A live stream. Thank you for being here. 25. I got stuff to talk about, but mostly I want to hear questions from you. And Scott Rhodes asks a great question to start off. He says, when did summer end? Yeah, a little bit cold out there, right? Let's get those questions coming in. If we have any glitches during this live stream, that's okay. We'll just start up again and we'll find each other out there. It'll all work out. I want to say hello to Johnny Midnight. Hello, Live to Fly. Hello, Poopa John, our moderator, beginner guitar lessons. Hello, Bruce from Sydney, Australia. Bruce and Byron from Sydney, Australia. Stephen Mannion, hello. Chaz from South Beach. My friends, I have plenty to share with you, but we are here mostly to talk about your questions. So when you have a question to ask, even if it's a dumb question, even if you think it's a dumb question, put a bunch of question marks in advance of your question, and we'll get right down to it, okay? So some of the things on my mind include the new blues guide that I just put out. I'm very excited about this blues guide that some of you might have seen. The blues guide is all yours. It is available to you for free, you could say, if and when you buy the complete Christmas songbook, right? Remember that complete Christmas songbook? Sure you do, because it's all I talk about for the past, I don't know, month or something, the complete Christmas songbook. We're going to talk about that book, but we're also going to talk about this blues guide. I can't wait to tell you about it. I have my own dumb question that I'm going to put out there a little bit later, which I think is a great dumb question, and I can't wait to share it with you. I wanted to let you know that we have a weekly guitar play-along coming up at about the midway point, say about an hour from now. And don't forget, all of this is being recorded so that should you have to step away from your screen, come on back in the next day or two or week, a month, a year, because all 24 previous live streams have been recorded and are available on my YouTube channel, and this one is no exception. Okay, so I see Chris has a question, because I see those big question marks ahead of time. Chris Creates is asking, please suggest a tempo for Silent Night, not too fast, not too slow, just right. Oh, yeah, a tempo. What I turn to when I'm looking for scientific evidence, a scientific number, I turn to an app on my phone called Stage Metronome. So if I were to turn on Stage Metronome and pick a tempo, this is a free app. I recommend it. Look at that, 80 beats per minute. 80 beats per minute. How about that for Silent Night? I'm not going to keep this going for too long, because I bet that is not an appealing sound out there. 80 beats per minute. How about that? So when I think of Silent Night, I think of a beautiful holiday tune. I would work up to that. I would make 80 the absolute maximum. And nothing wrong with playing it slower for artistic reasons, but also to get your skills together and work your way up to 80 beats per minute. But how about that for a number, 80 beats per minute? What a beautiful tune. Silent Night, since you brought it up, Chris, thank you for the setup there, is one of the 31 tunes available in 3 different formats in the complete Christmas songbook. You can play just the simple melody. You can strum the chords, and I show you the chords and the strumming pattern. And you can learn it as a chord melody version, which essentially combines the first 2. At least that's one way to conceive of it. And there's even a 4th way you can use the book, because 2 people could play Silent Night, for example, as a duet. One person playing the nice simple melody, the other person playing the chords. Of course, I made sure they'd be in the same key and they would mesh together seamlessly. So we'll get into the complete Christmas songbook in a little while. Jim from Washington State. Oh, Jim, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that town that you are viewing from, but that looks like an awesome name. Stephen asks a great question. I love these questions, you guys. Keep these questions coming in. Stephen asks, what does a D suspended 2 chord look like? I'll show you what it looks like. I'll show you the most conventional way of playing it. But then we'll talk for a minute about what it even means to be suspended. A D suspended 2. For the record, I'm holding down a D major chord, a good conventional D major chord. I'm simply lifting off my middle finger. It was on my first skinny E string. Now my first skinny E string is ringing as an open string. And that's what the 4 treble strings sound like now. A D suspended 2 chord. Not to be confused with a D suspended 4 chord. A D suspended 4, again, I'm starting with my D major chord, as my premise here. I'm adding my pinky finger, first string, 3rd fret. Some people might think of that as the free-falling chord. Okay, a D suspended 4 chord. Okay, so a suspended chord is neither major nor minor. In fact, that's specifically the point of a suspended chord, neither major nor minor. It's that I love the word suspended because the flavor of the chord, the nature of the chord is kind of floating up in midair, waiting for something to happen. Is it going to come down as a major or minor chord? What literally what's going on is a very specific note in the chord happens to be the 3rd degree of the major scale. In this case, the note F sharp in the key of D. The 3rd degree of the major scale is being taken away. It's gone from the mix, right? A chord is a mix of notes, right? You're taking that out and you're substituting one of its neighboring notes. We're taking out the 3rd degree of the scale and we're substituting either the 2nd degree or the 4th degree. It's got to be one of those two. And the 3rd degree of the scale is what determines if the chord is major or minor, either the regular 3rd degree of the scale or the flatted 3rd degree, right? That's the note. Here's what I want you to picture. For those of you who are familiar with the American flag, you got red, white, and blue, right? Let's say we take away the white for a minute. Is it still the American flag? No, it's something else. Instead of the white, we put in like a yellow. Red, yellow, and blue. It's not the American flag exactly. Okay, we take away the yellow, we put in a pink, red, pink, and blue. It's close, but it's not the American flag until we put that white back in. So we've suspended the American flag. How's that? Does that work for you? We've suspended it with colors that are close. Yellow and pink are close to white, but, okay, thank you for listening. By the way, this whole thing about suspending the D chord, I'm going to grab my pick here. Absolutely one of the most cliche things you can do with any chord on the guitar. I'm going to strum for a minute. Here's my D major chord. Name that tune. I think, mid-60s or so. Roger McGuinn and his buddies. Okay, what I'm doing there while you are thinking of the name of that tune, go ahead and put that in the chat. It's not the Beatles. It's a good guess, but I mean, the Beatles almost certainly use that. Everybody uses that riff. I'm thinking of a specific song by the band that was often referred to as the American Beatles. Okay, what am I doing right there? I'm doing this. Really, it's a cliche in the good and bad sense of the word. I'm strumming a D major chord, but while I'm strumming, I'm lifting off my middle finger, so it becomes a D suspended 2. Then I'm putting my middle finger back. Then I'm adding my pinky, so it becomes a D suspended 4. And then I'm taking my pinky off. And I'm really focusing my pick. People don't talk about this enough. I'm really focusing my pick on the 2 or 3 skinny strings. I know with a D chord, you can strum at least 4 of the strings, right? If not 5. But I want the listener to really hear what's going on in that skinny string. Okay, so I'm focusing my pick. Just because you're allowed to hit 3, 4, 5, 6 strings on the guitar at it, for a specific chord, doesn't mean you have to hit those strings, especially if you want the listener to hear something specific. Okay, and what tune is that? Hey, Stephen Smith, you got it. The Byrds, Feel a Whole Lot Better. Beginner guitar lessons, you're naming a bunch of tunes, and yeah, it's such a cliche. It's personally, it makes me a little crazy when I hear it. When I hear it in a newer tune, because that's okay. It's all right. It's a cool sound. So don't let me stop you from doing it. Okay, this all started with a perfectly good question about what does a D suspended 2 look like. So there you go. Okay. Robert's asking a very interesting question. Robert is saying, I have a guitar with a built-in tuner, and I'll also use my snap-on tuner, right? Like a snark or something. They don't completely agree. Would the built-in one be more accurate? That must be maddening, right? How can they not agree, right? What is up with that? Um, so the short answer, I don't know. I don't know. That's maddening, right? Um, I believe someone with a science background would argue or state that each tuner may be sensing the string, counting the vibrations at different points in the string's vibration. I mean, but I know the clip-on tuners almost certainly clip onto your headstock, right? So it's counting the vibrations from that point. The built-in tuner, very often, we have a pickup under the white saddle on our acoustic guitars. Assume you have acoustic guitar, there's a pickup, kind of looks like a thin, flat silver toothpick, and it's under the saddle. So it's counting the vibrations from down there. So I think that could be part of it. We're not comparing apples to apples, but nevertheless, they should agree, right? Everything else being equal, a low battery shouldn't affect it, right? So the short answer again, I don't know the answer, but I feel like there is. I feel like I'm by what I just said is close. That's what I think. That's my guess. But yeah, you got to pick one. And I'm always going to tell you guys, when in doubt, trust your ear. And that goes way beyond tuning your guitar, just in general. Trust your ear. If something sounds great, it's great. If something sounds a little bit off, hey, I'd be curious, since this is an interesting point, Robert, I'm curious if any of you all have noticed what Robert's noticing, or if you have your guitar handy right now and it has a built-in tuner and you have a clip-on tuner, if some of you might test it out right now. Some of you might never have noticed this before. So anybody else out there have this problem? Snow Kwame, Jim Brisky, the name of your town in Washington State is Snoqualmie, Washington. I love it. I love it. I love it. Bruce is asking one of my favorite questions. Bruce says, can you talk a bit about your practice routine and the drills you use? Yes. And I'll keep it short-ish because I'm a big fan of having a practice routine and pre-planning ahead of time and giving it some thought. So you get your most out of your time, because I don't know anybody who has tons of free time. So getting the most out of your practice time is crucial. I'm going to say a few general things, and then I'll be a little bit more specific. In general, you want to have some warm-up-y kind of things, scales, arpeggios, things that require your patterns. That's the word I'm looking for. You want to have some warm-ups that are patterns, not a specific song. You'll get to that in a minute, but patterns where you still need your brain to be turned on, but your brain is being asked to reproduce a familiar pattern, and you get the blood flowing in your fingers. And whatever you do, whether it's a bunch of scales or arpeggios, something like that, you want to do it slowly. Some warm-up things are musical, like it sounds like a do re mi scale. Some things, like what I call the daily exercise, don't particularly sound like a song, right? I'm just doing the first 4 frets on my treble E string. Every time I play a note, I'm keeping that finger down. I'm making sure my thumb is pointing up towards the ceiling. Okay, so whether it's me or you, that's how I recommend we all start off, and there's entire books full of scales and arpeggios and all that kind of stuff. And you can get as exotic as you want, or you can just do major scales and major arpeggios, and that's okay too. But if you're going to get a book that could be 10, 15, 20 bucks, you might as well check out all the pages, including some stuff that you might think, well, when am I ever going to use a diminished scale or a whole tone scale? When am I ever going to do such and such? You may not do it in your musical performing, so to speak, but it still makes a great warm-up. Okay, so the second thing I would do that I would encourage you guys to do is to start looking at your list of projects, whether they are specific songs, which is great, or skills you're working on. And the skill could be like for me, over the past couple of years, I've really been getting into chicken picking, all that fast, flashy country stuff. Often produced on Telecaster, single coil pickup kind of guitars. So I have a few books that are either focused on chicken picking or have a big chapter on chicken picking. So those are skills that I want to work on, not necessarily a specific song, but skills where I can set a metronome and keep track day by day, week by week. How fast can I do this skill? Then thirdly, songs, which is what most of us ultimately want to do. Some of us, it's 100% what we want to do. We don't want to play scales, we want to play songs, Songs typically involve chords, or if it's lead guitar solo type of approach to a song, like you want to learn the lead guitar solo to, how about Wish You Were Here? The intro, not the strumming for Wish You Were Here, but that cool solo that comes in about, 20 seconds into Wish You Were Here. That's a song, right? It's the lead guitar solo for that song. Chances are, whether it's chords or it's a lead guitar solo, it requires a lot from your fretting hand. But at this point, your fretting hand is nice and warmed up, right? Because you did your scales and arpeggios, you did your different types of skills that you're working on, and now you're, at your songs. For a while, I was doing a lot of jazz guitar chord melodies. So, jazz standards often are referred to as the American Songbook. Say like, God, Take the A Train, or Satin Doll, tunes of that vintage, played as a chord melody. So some challenging, for me, jazz chords and melodic notes in between the jazz chords. And I was practicing a few dozen at a time. So every day I would do, I forget what I was doing, maybe 6 or 8 every day. But even one is plenty. I'm not saying you guys should be doing 6 or 8, but I think I wanted to get a nice big set together so I could play like 25 or 30 of these tunes. So every day I would do 6 or 8. So anyways, that's where I'm coming from. Some kind of warm up, and then the rest of the time would be broken up into general skills and then songs. And right there, that could be hours of practice right there, So that's where I'm coming from. And I'm happy to get more specific about like exact things, but I figured I'd keep it a little bit general because you guys can, wherever you're at in your journey, quote, quote, you can relate to that. You can relate to warm-ups, skills, and songs, Now, my ideal practice session would involve even more than that. It would involve, some ear training time, spending some time with an ear training app. How about, reading a chapter from a music theory book? That would be great, All right, so there you go. That's and Bruce, maybe in the future I will be more specific, because why not? You can see where I'm at. In general, here's one more thing that may or may not inspire you. For me, unless I'm sitting down for an hour, it's really not a practice session. I'm not saying I don't play for 20 minutes and don't get little things done, but I don't know about you guys, but maybe I'm ambitious. I am ambitious. So I mean, I need an hour. I need an hour at least just to feel like I'm in the hopes of having any sort of benefit. I figure I got to put in at least an hour if I really honestly think it's going to make me a better guitar player. And I know that's not realistic. I know. Believe me, there's plenty of times I only have a few minutes. Yeah. So yeah, thank you for asking, because I love talking about practice stuff. Okay, I'm scrolling down here.